No joke, this is starting to get real tiring. Hey, I'm John. Welcome to Muggles 101, where I get into the Goblet of Fire. So I'm not gonna lie, shit just got dark. This is a very interesting turn of events, I found. First couple films I really enjoyed because they're very childlike and whimsical, and you really get into the world of magic and Harry Potter as a child. And then the last film, which was Prisoner of Azkaban, it got a little bit darker, and I jokingly said that it got a little bit Twilighty. And that's mostly because you got into the forest and you started watching color palette used, the color correcting used on this. Started also getting into that mid-2000s orange dark blue tinted color palette. I didn't realize Robert Pattinson Twilight himself was going to be Cedric in the next film, where he still looks almighty pale. I don't know when the Twilight books were made into films in the 2000s. I think this is right before that. Point being, I thought that was a little bit joking to myself because, oh look, Twilight's actually in this thing. And that's all to serve the greater plot within these books, the greater, lengthier point, which is everybody's getting older and you no longer have the whimsical youth, as mentioned the first couple movies / books. Remember, I have not read any of the books. Things just continuously get more adult-oriented. So when I say that, let's start. So the film starts off with this caretaker of this castle going to check up, thinking that it's hoodlum kids in the castle. During the middle of the evening, the caretaker is actually seeing what appears to be Peter Pettigrew, the doctor, and what sounds like Voldemort as like this weird small little Deadpool regenerating type of baby thing. Big snake that goes past him, so you know something's up. Anyway, we flash forward to Harry actually waking up at the Weasley's house, which good, because like I said, I don't want to see those relatives anymore. I already talked about them enough. And enter Twilight. What I realized about the style choices of this particular era, which is what I believe, mid-2000s, having long hair, luxurious locks is back in style for a little while, so everybody looks like an indie rock artist from Britain in the mid-2000s. It's okay. It's a good look. HRH gets back together. They end up going to the 422nd Quidditch World Cup. Oh, we'll say before we go further, weird dim-lidded dolly shot up until the boot what everybody grabs on to teleport themselves. For some reason, I laughed at that more than it should have.
You don't want to be late. Come on, you need it now. Get yourself into a good position. While they were standing on the backyard food, Tom, it isn't just anything. It's a portkey.
I've never seen such a exploratory boot shot before. Anyway, Quidditch World Cup. This is better than the Dallas Cowboys stadium. Cost, what, a couple $1 billion? Everything involved, which means tents, magical tents, all the prep, the sheer amount of seating, which I don't know how many people you could fit in there, but this stadium is pretty state-of-the-art, with the exception that it looks like industrial guardrails. There's not a whole lot of seating here. It doesn't look too comfortable. So Quidditch, yeah, still dangerous. During the whole World Cup and everybody's hanging out, a massive terrorist attack happens. I mean, no one's fighting back. Isn't everybody a wizard? I don't know. Everybody's just running. I mean, I suppose you would do that too, but wouldn't there be some sort of counter? Anyway, so you've got Voldemort's death lackeys just killing everything. Everybody's looking for Harry Potter, I'm assuming. Yeah, and then you see the Doctor, who's confirmed baddie, who signals his henchman, or the other henchman of Voldemort, Deathstalker, Death Mask Skull thing. So you get back on the train. It's obvious that these characters are now teenagers because, oh my god, those darting eyes. Lots of darting eyes between these teenage characters. To make all of us aware that Sirius Black still exists. I hope he comes back at some point, but Hermione's like, hey, you should probably tell your godfather what's going on. The godfather in seclusion that everybody's still looking for. So he sends out a thing with his owl to Sirius Black. Sirius Black is like, okay, well, give me a heads up. I'll come see you in Gryffindor common room, which is kind of a strange place considering people are still looking for you, but I didn't, the fire trick, cool little thing. Enjoyed that. So you set up the whole Harry's in danger thing from the start. All these movies start with Harry's in danger, and just be on the lookout for whatever is happening. Here's the main course of this entire film, is the whole Triwizard Tournament. Hogwarts decides to house this particular session of the Triwizard Tournament. You have to be 17 years old or older to put in your hat, and apparently you win glory. That's the big whole thing about it. Don't quite understand the whole thing. It's just to see who's got the bigger dick, I guess. I don't know. So you have to put your name in this goblet of fire. Everybody's been warned that could seriously get injured or hurt or killed or whatever. It seems to be taken lightly at a school. These are kids still. Whatever. This school is very dangerous for children, as we all know. There's other schools that teach wizardry around the world. Since the whole Triwizard thing is happening here at Hogwarts, everybody decides to send their best and brightest. So you've got the beautiful, talented young ladies. I don't remember any of their names, by the way. Remember this, I have a hard time with names. So you've got the school, the majestic school of ladies, head up by not Claire Danes. Yep, we've reached that point. Kids are a bunch of horn dogs. And then you've got the fantastic, what looks like Soviet Russia, burly men of fire, seafaring conquest. The guy who's gonna serve as their champion is Crumb. Not Conan's God Crumb.
Crumb laps with your 4 wins.
But whatever. And then the third one is Twilight, Cedric, Batman, so Robert Pattinson. And then somehow, out of the names getting picked out, Harry Potter gets picked. No one puts Harry Potter in. It's a weird choice. Oh, and through all this, you get introduced to Barnabas Croat, which is the rule keeper. I can't remember what his role is. Some big, long school Ministry of Magic sub-jury judge. The judge, I think. I'm just going to call him the judge. And then Alistair Moody, who, what did I write down? I wrote down crazy robo-alcoholic predator catcher. And of course he's the new dark arts teacher, because that is the running joke between these films so far, all four. They can't keep the dark arts teacher, which I suppose if you're teaching the most dangerous subject to your children, everybody who's going to be teaching it is a crazy person. I'm assuming that. And then he explains to them all these other curses, which are always going to come up, because that's what happens at the end of the first act, is that you always have the professors teaching them a new spell, or something that'll always come up later. I didn't catch the werewolf thing in the last movie. That's my fault. I got really confused when there was werewolf thrown in there for no reason. It exists here. And in this one, it was the killing curse and the bewitched curse they were mentioning. There was another one. I missed that one. Some pretty horrible curses that Moody teaches the kids. That scares them to death because, you know, they gotta face mortality at some point here. So at this point, Ron is pissed off at Harry, and that's because obviously he's mad that, you know, he's willing to put his life in there, who's not prepared, and Ron's trying to figure his life out. He's got a weird character thing. I mean, there was some tension between Ron and Harry that got over with pretty quick after Harry succeeds the first round. I will say the brothers Weasley, they've grabbed the spotlight on little snippets here and there. The twin Weasleys there, they're taking bets at this Triwizard Tournament where kids could get killed and stuff. Not legal, but who am I? Maybe it is over there. Who knows? Different rules. Anyway, yeah, so you learn that through Hagrid and a couple other sources that the first round of the Triwizard Tournament, you have to face off against a dragon. Yeah. Teenagers against dragon, that's fine. So in general, instead of a Quidditch match, we get Harry riding on a broom because you gotta show that in every film, apparently, because he's really good at it. That's his #1 physical skill he's got going on. So he gets the broom, someone sneaked the broom in, he kind of flies by the dragon. Really cool chase scene, actually, with the dragon. I enjoyed that completely. Yeah. So Harry passes his whole thing. Everybody passes their first round. But good on him. He gets a little bit of, a little cocky, because everybody hates Potter for doing it to begin with. It's cool that Harry gives Cedric a heads up, because Cedric isn't a bad character here. Good little heads up, so there's a little camaraderie happening there. That'll come in later on. Then we get to this weird point in the film where you get through the first challenge. This film takes an opportune time to realize that their characters are in that weird teenage awkward phase of their lives. So they say, well, since we have a bunch of other kids here from different schools, now's the time to really squeeze that teenage... How do I say this? This movie takes a different turn in tone. Turns into a teen com. In the middle of all this strange, Harry, someone's out to kill you again, your name is thrown in this deadly tournament which you can't go back from, and then right in the middle of the film, let's just have teenage hormones at its peak. Where you get to see Ron getting his hand-me-down dress robes, very insecure about himself. Obvious that he should have asked Hermione out. Hermione going out with the jock, feeling like the belle of the ball, no pun intended, because she became Belle later on in the remake of Beauty and the Beast. All of these things connect, it seems like, in my head at least. And then you got Harry just hanging out, wanting to ask the girl out, didn't get there fast enough. Harry is still trying to figure out who the hell he is too. All these characters are trying to figure out who they are. So yeah, so you just have Teenage Wasteland type of section where you have a weird dance scenario, all these hormones are growing out. Oh, and then a weird, strange segment where you get your next hint of what you're supposed to do in the second judgment of this entire Tri-Wizard tournament thing. When you get the egg out of the first one, which you get away from, once you get past the dragon, you get this egg is like the reward, and that actually tells you what the next hint is to be prepared for the next segment of this tournament. It just screams whenever he opens it. So Cedric gives him a heads up, hey, you should go put it underwater. You know, you can hear it finally rather than screaming, you'll hear it better. So Harry just goes up to the bath area, which Cedric suggests you go listen to it. We get this really unnecessary... Myrtle comes back. I don't like this character. Yeah, just gets creepy on Harry. I don't know what to say about that whole scene. It wasn't necessarily important to... And then eventually he figures out what he's got to do. So, we go to the second round of this Tri-Wizard tournament. The Weasleys are still taking bets. Harry's been aided by his friends. Neville was getting some sort of potion so he becomes an amphibian for a short time while he's under the water, where they have to save items that are precious to the students. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, because I can't remember how it's spoken. And you can only save one or something. Yeah, Harry becomes a creature of the Black Lagoon. Supposed to be underwater for like an hour to save whatever he needs to do. And what I think is weird, and you know what? Let me just show the clip of me doing it.
But he's my friend too.
That's f***ed. This is f***ed. Yeah, so everybody who is operating the tournament, all the higher up, all the adults, decide to take their friends and loved ones that the kids have that are participating and put them underwater as bait. That's f***ed. The teenage dance stuff and the weird love triangle and the whole will they won't they thing, that's fine. You gotta have these in these movies, I guess. It's part of those types of films. It's a strange turn to throw in there, and then it comes back to the most serious things where the adults in charge are bad at their jobs. And Harry prevails after all of them because he ends up saving, Ron and the sister of Not Claire Danes. He gets out past the hour mark, by the way. But once again, Dumbledore is the whole thing of points, and he doesn't care about points. So regardless of who wins first, Potter gets second place because of his outstanding moral fiber, which I'm glad is a joke that the Weasley brothers run with for a little while. Outstanding moral fiber. Sure. So Harry's saving people because that's what he does, unlike the Doctor in this movie. Moving on. So after this whole thing, Bartimaeus is found dead. Kind of weird that he's in the same night path that Hagrid and the kids are kind of walking by. Potter seeing all this stuff, so he goes to see Dumbledore. Dumbledore once again opens the door to something for him to wink, wink, nudge, nudge, check this out while I lure everybody away. And Dumbledore looks at his Pensiver, his little seeing fountain, to remind himself of things that happened in the past. You realize that Bartimaeus had a son who is the Doctor. So he's the Doctor that we only see in a couple little things earlier in the film. Doctor Who was in this one. He's a bad guy. He's Junior. But that's the first time you see Dumbledore with a little bit of doubt of like what to do, which is weird because up until this point, Dumbledore is the all-knowing character. And this is the first time where he's not too sure because none of the connections that Harry was trying to present, even Harry doesn't know if these dreams or things that he thinks he sees are relevant to the scenario. But of course, Dumbledore can see into these things. He understands that everything is connected in some manner in this universe. Another thing that has frightened me is maybe he's a wizard of such stature because he takes his wand, he takes the little doubts and bad memories in his mind, and he zaps them out with his wand, and he throws them in that pit. Something tells me that Dumbledore is trying to keep his sanity or keep himself from going nuts, and he's taking all of his doubt whenever he thinks of a bad memory, he kind of plops it out and throws it in there. I think that's what's happening. So you get to the third act. I will say, this is me being a band nerd, the Oompa Loompa Band, the little Oompa Loompa Band that plays, it seems to be, and this is me being a baritone horn player for years, there's like 6 modified baritones that they have dual bills on. Big fan. The third act is a creepy maze, which they warn that all 4 champions probably won't come out of. Basically the darkest maze you'll ever see. All 4 of them go in there with nothing but their wands, just trying to find their way out. And of course the maze changes. Things happen. Crumb has been bewitched. Has a bewitch spell on him. I don't know for how long, but it's been quite a while. And he basically almost kills off Not Claire Danes. Harry throws up his wand, has signaled for her because she's about to die that, hey, I'm out, so she doesn't die. So she's out of there, and then they keep running through the maze. Twilight was almost undertaken by the roots that the bewitched Crumb has sent off, like the forest roots, animal poison ivy roots. So instead of Harry letting him to die, he saves his life, and they both go and they both hit the trophy at the same time. They win equally. This is finally the moment of the film where it shines. We get to the Riddle family plot in the cemetery. So Wormtail comes out of a family plot with Voldemort. Harry is pinned up against the Riddle family monument that came to life. Anyway, so Harry's indisposed of. Cedric is knocked out cold. He's dead. So that's kind of a weird shocker that happens immediately. So at this point, Wormtail does the sacrifice ritual that's needed to bring back Voldemort. Voldemort's in this weird little Deadpool regenerative body thing. He's finally come into a body. Does a ritual, shares some blood with Harry Potter. The weirdest transformation I've seen in a while, where Voldemort becomes fully fledged in an adult form and calls his Death Riders, which are all like the House Slytherin, like you get Lucius Malfoy and all the other loyal people to Voldemort. Voldemort starts getting on this pissing match, and this is the one thing I don't know if it's been communicated to the audience through the films, or once again I could have just been looking at my messages, because these films have a tendency to just drop information, expository information, instead of actually communicating it, where in the book I'm sure it's actually a little more thought out. This film has the least amount of blatant expository information out of the 4, I should say. Voldemort is still just pissed at Harry. I still don't understand what the deal is. If I was Harry, I'd be like, okay, someone's trying to kill me. I want to know what the problem is, that he's had a problem with this kid who was 1 year old when he was given this mark and fought, and apparently the child who lived and all that. What did this 1 year old do to you? And I'm sure it has everything to do with their parents and what struggle entailed, but no one's been clear about that. At least I haven't seen like an answer. It's just Voldemort hates Harry Potter for some reason, and I still don't know what that direct answer is. Whatever it is, Harry's like, well, this is how it is, and this guy hates me for some reason. I've been trying to, avoid him like the plague for years, and now he's back and I gotta do something. So he has this wand battle, the basic Empire Strikes Back lightsaber tool is what happened. This is the comparative quote that I have for these films, is that this reached peak Empire as soon as they had a wand battle, and Harry saw his family and a couple people that died because of recent events, and he sees Cedric and he's like, please take my body home and stuff. So he's like, okay. So he has the Empire Strikes Back, he's gonna lose scenario. Instead of losing Luke's hand and being relatives, as far as I know, he loses Cedric, which is way worse loss than a hand in this universe. Harry manages to blind him for a hot second with the weird white light or whatever. He grabs the cup and Cedric and gets the heck out of there. Gets back to Hogwarts, basically says, okay, Cedric's dead, and everybody's like, yay, he's back. Oh god, a child is dead. It turns real dark real quick. Jesus Christ, that was f***ed. Super f***ed. God damn. every movie, there's always a turning point in these films that you would think that they would be a little more careful. Hogwarts isn't a safe school, even though they say that Hogwarts is safe. And then there's a moment in each one of these films that they say Hogwarts isn't safe. Hogwarts has never been safe. This universe isn't safe. Whatever. But yeah, so Cedric is dead. They have a funeral for him. You get a character that you may not necessarily know because he's introduced into one film, but is a good, humble character nonetheless, so you have connections with him. Harry befriends him. I think the point that this film brings up is that everybody's well aware of that Voldemort is back. We are on high alert now. And I didn't get that the last couple films. It was always a tease. It was always a whatever. And it always just directed Harry. One thing I guess I wasn't paying attention. It caught me off guard, which the other ones were always like, oh, of course it's this guy's actual bad guy. And like, I didn't care. Like the first film, I didn't care. Moody isn't really Moody. Moody has been in that chest that's been in his office for this entire time. And Doctor Who has actually been doing this whole lead up so Harry Potter eventually gets to Voldemort near the end. It's a big lead up, so he's a trifecta winner, the Wizards wizard winner. I still don't understand what the whole point of that was for that to actually happen. He could have just tricked him into going to the Riddle Cemetery and doing that rather than make him win this entire tournament. I don't know. It works though. It got me off guard. I just questioned that right now because I had to think about it. But this is me right after watching these films. So, and the real Moody is in the chest. So does that mean that it's been Bartley Crouch Jr. was the bad dude the entire time? That you see Moody on campus? I'm assuming that's the case. Is Moody going to stick around next movie? Probably not. It's probably going to be a different teacher because you need to have some sort of new blood come in. And the bigger thing is that if it's not obvious that things have changed, is that Hermione at the end, makes this statement where everybody is going away for the summer and they make a note that all these relationships with the different schools, things that these are relationships that are going to matter in the future. I hope that comes back. Obviously in the other books they'll get their Avengers Assemble moment near the end or something. I don't know. The whole thing is that Hermione says everything is going to change now, isn't it? Yeah, it has. This film is definitely the tone changer. I felt it. So pros, I like this direction. I liked Prisoner of Azkaban before. This one I enjoy way more than all of them, and that's probably because there was a lot more weird twists and turns. This is a weird movie. I am fully on board now. The last film, I started saying, well, I did like it because the tone changed, but it was a little sluggish. It was the shortest. It seemed more like a gateway film. This one ramps it up to 11. I was tired when I watched the other one. Now, the other films, I don't know what I'm going to get, but I like this one. This one's the changer. Like the Weasley twins in this, steal the moments. I like this world. I'm digging it. Negatives. My professors are still bad at their jobs. The teenage angst stuff. I care, but I don't. I'm hoping that this movie kind of sealed it, but I really don't want to see anything to do with Harry's relatives. I do want to know why their mom and dad died. I still don't know what the deal is there. And a little more clarification there, but Voldemort, it's cool to see him finally. So final thoughts, I'm on board. Can't wait to see what's going to happen next. And we'll see. These videos are taking a lot for me to edit, so I'd appreciate, I don't know if you do the whole subscribing and do the bell thing down below. I don't know if it's a thing. I don't care. This is an experiment for all intents and purposes, so hey, appreciate it. Stick with me after we've hit the stride in this series. So we're on to Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix.